This is 2.3. It's all about lines. This is going to be linear equations like crazy, lots and lots of them. Getting started, the slope of a line we call the slope. Its variable is m. Slope is rise over run, so you've heard that one. And what that means is that we look at the change in y over the change in x, because rise is up, down, run is going to be left, right. So y2 minus y1 over x2 subtract x1, where you get your x1 and your y1 from your point 1 and your x2 and your y2 from your point 2. If we look at this graph specifically, come here, graph. We're going to look at our rise and our run. So our rise here, since we have 0, we go up 1, 2, 3. And our run is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so when I go to list my slope, my rise is 3. I went up 3 and right 4. And that's both positive. So it's going to be our slope is 3 over 4. Now they're going to ask us to interpret this. For every 4-unit change in x, which was our run, the change in y is 3. So every time we go over 4, we go up 3. So positive 3 because it went up. Next. Here, same thing, find the slope of the line and interpret the slope. We can do this algebraically or we can do it looking at our graph. I'm going to show y'all both. So if we're looking at our graph, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be a negative 4. And then they're going to go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our slope on this one would be negative 4/5. Now let's do this one algebraically as well. So if we were going to do y2 subtract y1, we'll do negative 3 subtract 1. And then our x values, x2 is 3, subtract our x, negative 2. So a negative 3 subtract 1, you spent $3, you spent 1 more, so you get negative 4. 3 subtract negative 2, when you subtract a negative, it's adding, so 3 plus 2 is 5. So negative 4/5. It doesn't matter if you look at your graph and do it, or if you do it using the equation. There's some problems where you're going to have to use the equation, so just be familiar with it. This one's negative as well, because if you look at your graph compared to our last one, this one goes down, the other one went up. And when you're looking at slope like that, I always look at my graph left to right. Like you're reading a book, you always go left to right. So if I was to put my pencil on this left to right, I'd go down. The other graph, or the next one, we'll see. For every 5-unit change in x, the change in y is, since this one went down, we need to put negative 4. Should have left that there, but it was kind of in the way. I'm trying to think where I could write it that's not going to be in the way. So we need our slope formula. Now then we have to do it algebraically, so m equals change in y, y2 subtract y1 over x2 subtract x1. It doesn't matter which point you label point 1 and which point you label point 2. You just have to remember that that point has to be stacked on top of each other. So if I do 1 first here, 5 has to be here. If I do 3 first here, negative 3 has to be here. But have to stay together. So let's do y2, 1 subtract 3 over 5 subtract negative 3. 1 subtract 3 is -2. 5 subtract a -3. When you subtract a negative, you add. So 5 plus 3 is 8. You have to reduce it if it reduces. So 2 over 8 reduces because 2 can go into 8. 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 8 4 times. So -1/4. Now they want you to graph this. When you graph it, just graph these 2 points. Don't worry about anything else. So our 2 points, we had -3, 3, and you're graphing a line, so you'll have to click the line. -3, +3, and then 5, +1. Check. Same thing. So let's do 5 subtract 5 over 8 subtract -4. Whenever they're the same, like right here, 5 subtract 5, it gives us 0. 8 subtract a -4, that's going to be 8 plus 4, which is 12. That doesn't matter though, because 0 divided by 12, can you divide nothing up? No. So our slope on this one is 0. The alternative to this, when 0 is on the bottom, it's undefined because you cannot divide by nothing. Like, we couldn't divide nothing up, means we still have nothing. But when I have a number and we try to divide by something, that don't work. But -4, 5. And then we had 8, 5. So 0 slope is a horizontal line. Undefined slope is a vertical line, like this one. So our y values, we have -1 subtract 2 over -2 subtract -2. -1 subtract 2 would be -3. -2 plus 2 would be 0. I cannot divide by nothing. 0 cannot be on the bottom of a fraction. This is undefined. So when 0's on the bottom, it's undefined. When 0's on the top, it's 0. And a line with a 0 is horizontal. A line with undefined is vertical. So -2, +2, -2, -1. So undefined slope is a vertical line. 0 slope is a horizontal line. That's the big takeaway from those two problems. Okay, use the graphing tool to graph the line. We don't need this right here because they give us slope. So when we go to graph this, we're graphing a line, so always click your line. First, you're going to graph your point. So our point is -5, 6. So go to -5, +6. Good. And then since our slope is -2, remember slope is rise over run. And slope is rise over run. Since it's a -2, I'm going to write it -2 over 1. Always let the negative tell you if you're going up or down. So this one's negative, so we're going to go down 2 and always go right. If you go left, then you're going to end up messing up the negative you already have. So let the negative tell you up or down and always go right. So we're going to go down 2 from our point that we just graphed, -5, 6, down 2, right 1. Graph the line that contains the point 4, 2 and has a slope of 2, 3. I'm going to write 2, 3 here. So since this is positive, we're going to go up 2, always go right. That's right. But graphing. We're graphing a line. Our point is 4, 2. Our slope is 2, 3. So from this point, we're going to go up 1, 2, and right 1, 2, 3. Let's see what this tells us. Find the point slope form of the equation of a line. So point slope form. Of a line, whole thing's a line. So we're going to have y subtract y1 equals m times x subtract x1. This one and this one are always going to be y and x. You're not going to change them out. It's y and x. You have to have your y and your x for it to be a line, unless it's the undefined one, but that's rare. But y and x, those two stay in your equation even when you simplify. For this problem though, they just want us to put it in point slope form. So we're going to take the point and the slope they gave us and type them into it. So this one is still y, because it is always y. Our y value from our point is 2. Our slope is 3. This one is just x. And then our x value is 1. This is what they want us to type in for this problem, because they're not asking for it to be simplified. They ask for it in point slope form. If they asked for it in slope intercept form, or for us to simplify, we'd have to distribute and solve. But this they want in point slope form, so type it in just like that once you plug that in. Y minus 2 equals 3 times x subtract 1, close parenthesis. Okay. Same thing here. Point slope form of the equation of the line, so they do not want us to write it out. This one is y. Our y value is 2. Our slope is negative 3/4. This one's just x, and then our x value is 5. They don't want us to simplify it. Type it in like this. Y subtract 2 equals negative 3/4 over close parenthesis, x minus 5 close parenthesis. Okay, there's a couple more of these. Alright, so y subtract our y value is 4 equals 0 times x subtract the x value, which is negative 6. I want to type just 0 in, but it does say simplify your answer on this one. So since it's 0 times x minus 6, let's just put y minus 4 equals 0. Since this one says this, 0 times anything is 0, so I'm just going to do this. Okay. Determine 3 points on the line with the slope negative 5/2, passing through negative 7, 1. I'm going to find the equation of this line first, and then I'm going to find the point. So y subtract our y value is 1 equals negative 5/2 times x subtract our x value is negative 7. Alright, I'm going to simplify this so it's easier to work with. Y subtract 1 equals negative 5/2 times x plus 7. Then we have y subtract 1 equals negative 5/2 x. 7 times a negative 5 would be negative 35/2. I'm going to add 1 to this. which one is going to be 2 over 2, so I'm going to end up with, where do I want to write this? Y equals negative 5 halves x subtract 33 over 2. Oh, I'm going to rewrite it right here. Oh, wait. I'm going to use Desmos on this one, just to show y'all a graphing tool. You can plug in each point and check to see if it is actually on this, or you can use what I'm about to use. I'm going to pull it up real quick, though. Let's see what Okay, so it's called Desmos Graphing Calculator. That's what I'm going to use. Somebody's been on this one. And I'm going to type in the equation we just found, so y equals negative 5 halves x subtract 33 over 2. Now the points that they give us, I'm just going to put them in order of how I see them, exactly how I see them. So I have negative 17 comma 5. Then I guess I can say this one is a cool. Oh, here we go. And this one is negative 3 comma negative 9. And we're going to label it B. This is negative 1 comma negative 14. Oh, I did 13 instead. Negative 5, negative 4. I think there's one more point. And this one is 7. So you could check each of these individually. I've got them all plugged in now. So let's see. E, B, and C are on our graph. E, B, and C. The big thing on this problem was to find the equation and then be able to check it, but it takes a lot of writing everything down to check all of it. So we did that. Okay, next problem. An equation of the line L. So we're going to do slope-intercept form on this. Slope-intercept. Y equals mx plus b. Y and x are y and x. M is our slope. And b is our y-intercept. So when we go to look at this, we need to find our slope and our y-intercept. Our y-intercept, where does it cross the y-axis, is 0. So b equals 0. Now we just need our slope. You can do that algebraically, or we can count. So here, our rise over our run. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our rise. We go up 4, so positive 4. And then 1, 2, 3 right. So our slope is rise over run. When we go to write this equation, we're going to have y equals slope x, and then it would be plus 0. We don't have to put plus 0 because we're adding nothing to it. So it would just be y equals 4/3 x. I clicked off of it when I did that. Y equals 4/3 x. And be sure your x is at the side and not in your denominator, because then you're graphing a reciprocal graph, and I don't think it would like that. Find the equation of L. I've hidden the graphs, so let's look at that. Okay, so once again, our y-intercept right there, it is going to be at 1 this time though, and it's at positive 1. Then if we look at this slope, we can do it algebraically, or we can just count it. We'll do it algebraically this time just to keep that going. So y2 will do -3 subtract our y1, -1, over, since I used -3 first, we have to use 4, subtract 2. Then -3 subtract a -1, this is going to change to a positive. So -3 plus 1 would be -2. 4 subtract 2 would be 2. That reduces because -2 divided by 2 is going to be 1. So our slope is going to be -1. When we go to plug these into our slope-intercept form, m and b, you always have a y equals our slope is -1. I'll write it out first. Plus our b is 1. Right here, since it's -1x, like times it, we always assume that x is 1. So we do not need to write the 1. It's just going to be a -x plus 1. I feel like it's getting worse writing over there. So y equals -x plus 1. I shouldn't have erased that. Oh. This one they're asking, find the equation of the line L, where L is parallel to y equals 3x. So this is line L. This is y equals 3x. So parallel lines never, ever, ever cross. So since they never cross, they have to have the same slope. So parallel lines have the same slope. Slope is always with x, so since they tell us L is parallel to y equals 3x, right here this 3 is our slope. So all I need to be able to write the equation of this line is the y-intercept. I need to know what b is. So I'll look at this. I know it gave us this point. We could do point slope form with it, but it's easier just to look at our graph and say, this is our y-intercept, and that is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So b is 5, our slope is 3, so our equation is going to be y equals mx plus b. Perpendicular. So parallel lines have the exact same slope. Perpendicular lines, to be able to make that perfect 90 degrees, have opposite reciprocal slopes. And I'll write that here. Opposite reciprocal. opposite reciprocal slopes. All this means the opposite of something, if something is positive, it's now negative for it to be an opposite. If it's a negative, the opposite is a positive. Reciprocal, so if I had 3, the reciprocal would be 1/3. If I had 2/3, the reciprocal would be 3/2 because you just flip it. So opposite reciprocal, change the sign and flip. Change the sign and flip. So we need to get our slope first. Looking at this, it's perpendicular to y equals -2x. So from this one, its slope is -2. So our perpendicular slope is going to be the opposite. So the opposite of a -2 would be +2. And then the reciprocal would be, well, we flip 2, so it'd be 1/2. So opposite, positive, then the reciprocal is 1/2. This is just our slope. So our slope that we're going to use is 1/2. Then we need to find our y-intercept. So they give us this point, -3, 6. We're going to take that point and use our point slope form because it's not perfectly on an axis like at a point. So let's go ahead and do our point slope form because we can practice. So y value, here I'll write the point we're using right here. Y subtract our y value equals slope times x subtract our x value. Then we simplify this, so y subtract 6 equals, this is going to be a plus sign here, equals 1/2 x plus 3/2. Why is it so bad when I get in that corner? Then we need to add our 6 over to the 3/2. Oh. And the 6 is going to change to 12/2 because if I do 12 divided by 2, I would get 6. So I'm changing my 6 into how many halves would make 6. So 12/2 plus 3/2 would be 15/2. I just don't know where to write it. Okay, so y equals 1/2 x plus 15/2. And I started this earlier, so that's why there's a mid-video wardrobe change. So we're finding an equation for the line with the given properties. Express your answer using either the general form or the slope-intercept form of a line. We're going to show our answer using slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. But to be able to get there, we have to first find slope. Then we're going to take one of these points and plug it into the point slope form and then simplify it to the slope-intercept form. So I'm going to go ahead and write our slope formula. I think we're going to have to use it again, so I'm going to write it up here. y2 subtract y1 over x2 subtract x1. So when we're finding our slope, our y value, our second y is -3. Remember, subtract. -2 is the other y value. And then our x values, we have 1, subtract, and then this one is -1. Whenever you're doing this, just be sure that your points, like this one is 1, -3, it has to line up with each other. 1, -3, -1, -2, -1, -2. Because if you mix those up, you're not going to get the right answer. It's going to be shot. But when you subtract a negative, you change it to a plus sign. So -3 plus 2 would be -1. And then here we have 1 plus 1, so 2. So our slope is going to be -1/2. Now then, let's do the point slope form to be able to get it to our slope-intercept form. So I'm going to write point slope right here. y subtract y1 equals m times x subtract x1. I think I want to use this double negative point right here for this form, and then we have our slope that we also have to use. Here. There. So y is y. y1 is going to be this negative 2. M we just found. X subtract our x value right here is negative 1. Okay. Now then, to get it to slope-intercept form, we're just going to work this problem out and solve it for y. So we're going to go ahead and change our subtract a negative to a plus. Negative 1/2. And I'm just going to change the subtract a negative to plus signs right now. Now then, we're going to distribute our negative 1/2 to that x plus 1. So we're going to have y plus 2 equals negative 1/2 x, and then negative 1/2 times 1 is going to be anything times 1 is itself. It changes it from the positive to a negative though. Then since this is a plus 2, we're going to have to subtract 2. So we're going to subtract 2. When we subtract 2 from this 1/2, like we have negative 1/2 subtract 2, we need to change our 2 into halves as well. So how many halves are in 2 wholes? Which is going to be, I'm just going to write it right here, 4 halves. So I have negative 1/2 and negative 4 halves. Since they're both negative, we add those. So we're going to end up with y equals negative 1/2 x subtract 5 halves. Whew. When you get to the bottom of this board, it's like everything moves this way. Okay, let's see. Y equals negative 1/2. Be sure you click out of that denominator. X subtract 5/2. Awesome. Okay, let me see what I can get. So since it gives us slope-intercept form here, I'm going to leave it. Get rid of some of this. Oh no, we won't have the same slope. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. Okay. Now I have my slope, my point slope, and my slope-intercept up here. Let's see what they're asking for. Find an equation for the line with the given properties. Express your answer using either the general form or the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. Parallel to the line, 2x subtract y equals negative 2, containing the point 0, 0. Okay. Parallel lines have the same slope. Parallel lines have the same slope. Where do I want to write that? No. Parallel lines have the same slope. So the first thing we need to do is figure out what the slope is to this line, because that is going to be our slope to our new line or equation of a line. All right, so we have 2x subtract y equals negative 2. So I'm going to go ahead and solve this for y to get it in slope-intercept form, so I can take whatever is with x and make it my, well, I don't have to make it, to find my slope. So we're going to subtract our 2x. So we have negative y equals negative 2x subtract 2. This isn't solved for y yet because it's negative. You have to get rid of the negative so that it's positive y. So when we can say we're dividing by negative 1. That would do it. So we have y equals 2x, because the negative divided by a negative is positive. Negative divided by a negative is positive 2. So our slope, which we just found from this, slope is always with x when it's solved in slope-intercept form. So our same slope is 2. Now the point they told us is 0, 0. So if I'm doing slope-intercept form, since this is 0, 0, the intercept for y is 0. So this right here tells me that b equals 0. So when I go to write this into my slope-intercept form, we have our slope is 2, and our y-intercept is 0. Since our y-intercept is 0, our line is just going to be y equals 2x. I think that might be. I should have clicked the box. Okay. Y equals 2x. Okay. Let's get rid of that question specific stuff. I should have left the parallel lines. Yeah, alright. Alright, they want us to write this one in slope intercept form too, but this is a trick problem. Parallel to the line x equals 1, containing the point -1, 3. So the last one we did, parallel lines have the same slope, yes. When we have x equals 1 and we do not have a y, we don't have y and x. Y and x make it so our line is diagonal. If it's just y equals, that line is horizontal. If it's x equals, it's a vertical line. Vertical lines have undefined slope. So since this has undefined slope, I also need the line that's just like it that also has undefined slope. So the only way to have an undefined slope is to have x equals. So if I know it's going through this point, -1, 3, I also need another line that is x equals. So the only line that's going to satisfy it, that's going to go through this point, is going to be x equals -1, because that's the only way we're also going to have undefined slope. I hope that. I hope that makes sense. X equals -1. Okay. Now what do we have? Give the slope and the y-intercept of the line with the given equation. Then graph the linear equations. So they gave it to us in slope-intercept form. So our slope is what's with x, so slope is 2, and then our y-intercept is +4, so it's 4. We'll go ahead and do those real quick. Our y-intercept, because they gave it to us in slope-intercept form, we didn't have to solve anything. We just had to look at our equation. Whatever is with x is our slope, and then what's over to the side, if it would have been -4, it would have been -4, but it's +4, so our y-intercept was +4. And that's exactly what we're going to use when we go to graph this. Can I? Okay, you have to click the line because we're graphing a line. Our y-intercept is 4. Graph your y-intercept first, so we'd go up to +4. Now our slope is +2. Since it's +2, we're going to go up 2 over 1 because it'd be 2 over 1. And we do rise over run, and since it's +2, up 2, always go right. Okay, use the given equation, find the intercepts of its graph, and graph the equation. This is where we're going to, I think I'm going to work it out over here, and then write our answers over here, and then I'll have to erase it to do our graph. So we have 4x plus 2y equals 8. So when we're solving for our intercepts, you put x equals 0 to get the y one, you put y equals 0 to get the x one. So since we're solving for x first, we're going to do y equals 0. So we'd have 4x, and when you put, I'll just do it, 0 in here, this is gone, equals 8. So then we divide by our 4. So x equals 2. This one's going to be 2. Let's go ahead and do our y. So we'd have x equals 0. So we'd have 4 times 0 plus 2y equals 8. This is gone because anything times 0 is 0. Divide by 2, so y equals 4. And so we're going to have y equals 4. Since I didn't leave room there, let's go ahead and get those. When you graph this one, you're just going to graph x is 2 and y is 4. Let's see how bad this is. Okay. If I move it over here. Okay. You're graphing a line, so click your line, and then x equals 2 and it's positive 2. And then y equals 4, and it doesn't matter if you do y first or x first. You'll still get it. So y is 4, x is 2. This is the same kind of problem, so let's do it again. I think this one's going to give us some fractions, though. So we're getting x first, so y equals 0. So I would have 3x plus 8 times 0 equals 12. Anything times 0 is 0. So then we have 3x equals 12. I'm dividing by 3. So x equals 4. Then we do x equals 0. So I'd have 3 times 0 plus 8y equals 12. Anything times 0 is 0. Then we're dividing by 8. This is going to be a fraction, so we're going to have y equals, it's 12 over 8, but 4 goes into both 12 and 8. So 4 goes into 12 3 times, and it goes into 8 2 times. So y equals 3 halves. And I'm going to write beside this 3 halves is also 1.5. The 1.5 is more so for the graphing part, because they want 3 over 2 here. But when we go to graph this, click your line. Here, let me move it over. Whoops. You get back up there. Okay. Line, and we have x equals 4. We'll do that. And then our y is it's 3 halves, but that is 1.5. And it shows on here decimals, not fractions, so that's why I wrote 1.5. But, okay. Let's get rid of this. I like these ones because people don't realize this is algebra. A truck rental company rents a moving truck for 1 day by charging $38 plus 0.6, so 6 cents per mile. Write a linear equation that relates the cost C in dollars of renting the truck to the number X of miles driven. What is the cost of renting the truck if the truck is driven 135 miles and 402 miles? Type the linear equation that relates the cost C in dollars of renting the truck to the number of X miles driven. So when we're renting our truck right here, it's 38 plus, exactly what it says. Now whenever it says per, and you're reading any word problem and it says per, it's going to be multiplied by something because it's going to change every time. So since it's 6 cents per mile, we're going to have 0.06x. Because it changes every mile. It's different regarding if it's 1 mile or 2 mile. So 38 plus 0.06x. Now then, let's see. What is the cost of renting the truck if the truck is driven 135 miles? we are going to plug in 135 for x. Let me find a calculator real quick. What if we do? Okay. So we're going to put 38 plus 0.06 times 135. So 0.06. You can't see it. We're not going to use that other part anyway. Times 135 equals 8.1, and then we're going to add that to our 38, so 46.1, $46.10. Okay, and then the next one asks for 402 miles, so we're going to have 0.06 times 402 miles equals plus 38, $62.12. I'm just going to find my mouse, minimize that, maximize this. The annual fixed cost of owning a small sedan are $4,475, assuming the car is completely paid for. The cost to drive the car is approximately 0.14 cents per mile. Write a linear equation that relates the cost C and the number of X miles driven annually. So it's this much yearly, I guess oil changes, tires, whatever else you might need. So this is going to be our formula. And I think that's all they want on this. I don't think they're going to give us like anything to, like, miles. So $4,475 plus 14 cents per mile. Okay. Okay. I needed that. It'll be all right. The relationship between Celsius and Fahrenheit degrees measuring the temperature is linear. Find a linear equation relating Celsius and Fahrenheit if 0 degrees Celsius corresponds to 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 10 degrees Celsius corresponds to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Use the equation to find the Celsius measure of 65 degrees Fahrenheit. First off, this is the actual equation, so you can find it. Since they have C equals on all this, C's in the Y spot, like if we were writing Y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to have F and C here. And then we're going to do, we have 32 and 0. And then we have 50 and 10. So we're going to find our slope, and then we're going to plug this in and get our equation. Words, ma'am. Oh, so we have 0 subtract 10 over 32 subtract 50. I could have done that. 50 subtract 32 and 10 subtract 0. Probably should have to avoid the negative. So we have negative 10 over 32 subtract 50 was 30. It'd be 20, so negative 18. Negative divided by a negative is going to make that positive. 10 over 18. 2 goes into both of them. You can see all the 5s and 9s. So we're going to have 5 ninths. And this is our slope. So then we're going to pick one of these points. I'm going to use this one. and we're gonna do the y subtract y1 equals m times x subtract x1. So our y value is 0, and also our y is c, and our x is f, but since I've started already, I'm gonna finish this and then I'll fix it. So we have 5/9, and then we'd have x subtract 32. And then when I change my c and my f, and we'll, subtracting 0 is nothing, so we have c equals 5/9 x subtract 32. Of course, it's the one I wrote all over. And then they want us to, here, I guess I can get rid of it. It's the highlighted one. But like I said, this is the actual equation. This was just kind of this is where this equation came from. Okay, so we're going to put 65 in for F because they gave us Fahrenheit and they want Celsius. So we're going to do C equals 5/9 of 65 subtract 32. I wonder if I can get my calculator right here. Perfect. All right, so clear. We're going to do 65 subtract 32 equals, and then since it's 5/9, we're going to multiply by 5, and then we're going to divide by 9. So 18.333. 18.3 repeating. We'll minimize that. Round to 1 decimal place, so just 0.3. I don't know what happened. 18.3. Yay. Oh, that was the end of 2.3 though as well, so that's our longest, I think, assignment we have out of all of them. But stay tuned for 2.4.